Hello everyone, P. McGee here with another draft battle analysis video and recap. This time looking at my week 4 match in the BBL against Frandy and his Washington Wynotties. As it stands, I am 3-0 in the league after getting a solid start with my team. I do not remain convinced that my team overall is very effective. I have concerns about some of the issues that it may run across, and I have thus far been able to avoid anything too disastrous, but I'm very wary of some of the issues that may still arise as the season goes on. But before we get into this match, we're going to take a look at the team that Frandy had available to him, and then the pieces I brought to best address it. So I've played Frandy twice before. In my first Ubers league that I played in, he was the league admin. So I ran into him in regular season and then in playoffs. I was fortunate to be able to collect the win both times. RCS Electric was just really, really hard for his team to manage, and I was able to make some very successful calls to how he would adjust in playoffs after our regular season matchup. And so I was able to beat him in both occasions, but I knew that I was not going to be looking forward to a rematch against him again. Some of the things that he is well aware of that I like to do is some of my defensive play, some of my reliance on Pyukumuku. So he's just a little more familiarized with my play style, which does not bode well for me. So I've been dreading this matchup all season just because I knew he was going to be in a better spot than most to address my play style. And then one of the pieces he has to really threaten me is Marshadow. And so the thing about Marshadow is I have individual pieces that can address it. You know, I have type immunities to both its stab options. So I have something like Indeedee to avoid the ghost moves, or um, Blacephalon to avoid the fighting moves, or to resist some of them with things like Florges. But it turns into a predicts game. And so I need to start getting accurate predicts on how he's going to react and behave within a certain situation. And so if I get that wrong, I get punished hard because Marshadow just hits really, really hard. From his last battle, I noticed that he ran into a huge problem by choice locking it. So I'm very, very convinced it's going to show up as a life orb this week because of the trouble he ran into last time with it. Or maybe something like an expert belt, but I don't have a lot of things he hits for super effective damage, so I don't really expect an expert belt. So it seemed like he would be bringing a life orb just as a way to have some flexibility in how he's attacking and changing it up depending on how I bring things onto the field. Corviknight, not concerned about it offensively. Obviously, it's a real hindrance to break and get past. It stops something like Florges from being able to do anything offensively and trying to click Moonblast because Marshadow doesn't want the Moonblast. Hydreigon, who's his next mon, doesn't want the Moonblast, but Corviknight can just really sit there. Makes it a little difficult to get past and break. Hydreigon, somewhat concerned about it. It has a nice little speed tier, so it's faster than my Zygarde by a few points, and so that means it can spam a Draco Meteor at me before I have a chance to do anything to it, which is obviously a concern. It is the singular piece that is stopping Blacephalon from potentially sweeping, just because it's really hard to get past. So I'm very wary of this Hydreigon in this matchup, and its potential to just kind of wall out some of my sweep options. Rotom Heat, really strong answer to most of the Genesect sets I could bring. Has a really hard time dealing with that because Stab hits it for not very effective damage. Most of his coverage moves don't hit it that well. I'm basically forced into running something like a Water Drive or Douse Drive Genesect just to get that water attack in there to really spam it, but that's a lot to commit for a Rotom, so I'm not sure that I want to do that. Nihilego, it isn't super concerning. It doesn't have an easy opportunity to sweep. It doesn't have great moves for Zygarde. It has Dazzling Gleam, it has Grass Knot, but those aren't going to hit a lot for a lot of damage unless it's really boosted up. So I'm not overly worried about it. Swampert, not super worried about it. I have Mega Venusaur. It's not positioned well to deal with that. Can't Toxic it. All it can really do is set rocks on it. So I'm not super concerned about what it might try to do, but it could show up. Slowbro, actually fairly concerning. Really, the main reason I can't run an offensive Zygarde is because I just can't get big enough, fast enough to break through this Slowbro. Just because Slowbro has Ice Beam and it's just so thick and it can do Toxic Stall, things like that to really shut me down. So I'm wary of the fact I'm not going to have an easy time getting through Slowbro, and unless I can Toxic Stall the Slowbro, it just is in a good position to shut down any Zygarde sets I might want to do. Comfey, slightly annoying for the Draining Kiss utility, but I'm not super concerned about it. I'm willing to absorb one Draining Kiss to smack it with Toxic and just kind of try to shut it down. Chestnut, same thing. Chestnut, from what we showed in my last battle where I was using the Chestnut against a Zygarde, Chestnut can actually be a very effective Zygarde answer in terms of checking on any sort of offensive Zygarde, but it's not well positioned to handle Zygarde that is going behind a sub and doing things like Toxic. It's not really built as a Toxic stall withstander. It can roar out, but then it needs to get not wish support, but Heal Bell or some kind of Cleric support to get it off of that Toxic status if I do that. So Chestnut can check a couple of things that Zygarde wants to do, but it's not an answer to sub-stall sets. And then Ambipom, not really considering it. Don't think it's going to come. I'm not going to really put any extraordinary effort into it, although some kind of fake out not Giga Impact, Last Resort set could be interesting, but I'm not overly betting on that showing up. So with that in mind, the team I brought to handle a lot of what he was trying to do was the Zygarde, going for that sub-toxic set again. I think it's going to be effective. If I can get toxic on a lot of his switch-ins, then he's in a bad shape. His only answer to toxic that doesn't get poisoned and would maybe want to come in on Zygarde is the Corviknight and the Nihilego. Those are the only things that don't take poison status. Neither of them like 1,000 arrows, so they're not in good positions to wall it out. And I know this, and so I figure if I can get some toxic spread around, he's in really bad shape. A little bit of attack investment to help break Corviknight because Corviknight can be bulky, and I don't want to be running out of 1,000 arrows trying to break it, so I want to see if I can get it down as quickly as possible. Speed invested to outspeed max speed Rotom because I know Rotom can't break my sub, but Rotom can hit me with a toxic before I can sub. So I want to make sure I can reliably sub in front of Rotom if I have to, so that Rotom can't hit me with a toxic as I'm trying to sub. A little bit of Spadef investment, nothing much. And then, like I said, substitute, protect for the stalling, 1,000 arrows, toxic. Genesect, going for the choice scarf so I can go faster than the Marshadow. I believe I'm speed invested to outspeed the Hydreigon as well, so that the Hydreigon can't outpace me if it's also running a scarf. U-turn for momentum, Iron Head for good stab, Blaze Kick for the Corviknight specifically, and then I run Giga Drain. I believe it's for the Slowbro and the Swampert because Slowbro is usually physically defensive, not so much specially defensive, and so I figured Giga Drain could be effective in that regard. Blacephalon, the Focus Sash. So the goal with Blacephalon here is if I can address Hydreigon, I'm in a really good spot to click Flame Charge and then just sweep the game. I'm running Expanding Force. Hindsight, that's a mistake. It should just be Psyshock. I'm going to do much more damage to the one thing I want to hit, which is the Nihilego with Psyshock, just because Nihilego has a really bad defensive stat. And Expanding Force isn't always a reliable option to get that stab. So, or that, not that stab, but that boost from the terrain being out. So in hindsight, I regret going Expanding Force. I think Psyshock would have been generally more effective. A tiny bit of attack investment, some defense investment, enough speed to outspeed the Hydreigon, and then, and the Nihilego, because Nihilego is a 103, so I'm outspeeding the Nihilego as well. And then the rest in special attack. Goal being to flame charge, ideally flame charge for a KO, and then just sweep. Have the focus sash so that I don't get revenge killed by Shadow Sneak Marshadow, as long as I can keep hazards off the field. And then Shadow Ball Flamethrower, pretty much hit everything for super effective damage, with the exception of that Hydreigon. And then Rotom Heat can pose some concern if it's a special defensive variant. The Venusaur, the Mega, very, very defensive to try to be as reliable as possible to hit KO range, or 3-hit KO range from the Marshadow. I believe Poltergeist from Marshadow will probably still reliably 2-hit KO, but it has a hard time running that because he knows I'm going to have things to run no item to try to account for it. So I don't expect him to have Poltergeist. I expect Spectral Thief. So I'm okay with my Venusaurite. Sludge Bomb, just because it hits enough things neutrally. I'm aware that if he brings Chestnut, I'm going to run into bulletproof issues, but I opt not to go for Sludge, even though Sludge would be better. Unfortunately, Venusaur doesn't have Sludge Wave as a move, so I'm really limited on options if I want to carry a poison move, so I'm just gambling on it not coming. Sleep Powder, because I know there's several scenarios where I can bait in things. Corviknight hard answers Venusaur. There's nothing Venusaur can do to pressure out Corviknight, which I know. So Corviknight has a really easy time switching in. So predictively, I can run Sleep Powder to smack it with as the sleep condition as it comes in to check Venusaur. and be in a good spot to exert some pressure, create momentum, things like that. Giga Drain, just as a general coverage move, hits a lot of things neutrally. And then Earthquake, because I only need one Mon to hit Earthquake with, and that Mon is Nihilego. Earth Power, even with my special attack stat and some investment, still does less than a negative nature Earthquake on a Nihilego. And Earthquake reliably still one-hit KOs that Nihilego with some HP investment as well. So Earthquake was just a more reliable way to scoop up a one-hit KO on Nihilego if I needed that situation. And so I'll see if I can create that. I don't need that ground attack for anything else, so it's really just for that. Florges running no item just to account for Poltergeist in case he decides to bring that, which I think would be a mistake, but just in case. Max defensive investment to try to get into 3-hit KO range if I can. Wish, Protect, Defog because I need to clear hazards in case he sets those so that my Blacephalon has a chance to sweep and still be safe from Marshadow. And then Moonblast just as a general stab option. And then finally, in DD, Choice Scarf so that I can outspeed the Marshadow because I don't expect it's going to be Choice Scarf. Expanding Force because that's a good stab option. Trick if I need to pass the item off to someone. Dazzling Gleam specifically for the Hydreigon. And then Tri Attack over Hyper Voice just because I figured if I needed to start fishing for things, I would fish for status. I don't run Mystical Fire because I expect Corviknight's going to be Mirror Armor, and so that's going to be bad for me. I don't run Hyper Voice because I just don't think it's a 10 PP difference, 10 more power in Hyper Voice, but Tri Attack gives me opportunities for things like freeze or burn or paralysis that could be impactful. And so I like the possible odds of that because I'm not really expecting Tri Attack or Hyper Voice to be a breaker, but could be something that opens up a game if the right situation emerges. So that's the team. That's what I brought. That's what I was generally trying to go for. We're gonna get into this match. It is a little bit longer, so I'm gonna play it at regular speed for now, and I'll stop as needed. So I'll explain the leadoff I go with. I lead with my Venusaur. I looked at what he had as options to lead with. I didn't think any of them are going to want to 1v1 Venusaur very well. If he leads Corviknight, I Sleep Powder. Anything else, I think I scare out into Corviknight, so I Sleep Powder. Turn 1, the goal was always to click Sleep Powder on the expectation he would switch into Corviknight because he doesn't want anything else taking Venusaur on turn 1. I expect Nihilego to flee because Nihilego doesn't want to eat a ground attack on turn 1, which Venusaur is very likely to carry. So I stay in. I click Sleep Powder. Unfortunately, he's Stealth Rocks, and so I put the wrong thing to sleep. Very unfortunate. I expected Nihilego to just hard switch out because it didn't want to get status. It wasn't worth risking death on turn 1 to try to beat Venusaur, in my opinion, or to put hazards up. So I was caught off guard. Good call by Frandy to stay in and attempt that. He gets his rocks up. I only get a sleep status, which isn't that impactful. He switches out into Corviknight now, which I expected. I'm going to come in with my Zygarde because that does well here against the Corviknight. It is a bulk upset, obviously problematic for me. It hasn't revealed an ability, which tells me it's Mirror Armor, specifically to deal with the Mystical Fire from the Indeedee. I'm trying to break it, but I'm not doing a very good job of it. He's going to keep Brave Birding me, and then he's going to make a really, really smart call on here with a really smart set. He comes in with Slowbro on the expectation I'm not going to sub again, but just try to attack this turn, and also not Toxic this turn. So he comes in with Slowbro. I click 1,000 Arrows, and then Slowbro activates a Flame Orb, which is a really, really smart tech. Because now I can't Toxic the Slowbro and I cannot break the Slowbro 1,000 Arrows. He has essentially made Slowbro a hard answer to my Zygarde. There is nothing my Zygarde can do to pressure that Slowbro for this entire game, unless the Slowbro is borderline dead at like 5%. I can't do anything to it now. So he has minimized everything my Zygarde's going to want to do this game. I did not expect Flame Orb. That was just a really good item to run because it limits what I can do. And I would have had to have hard called the Toxic on the switch, which was hard to do because it was a Steel type on the field. And so he just gets me in a position where I can't exert pressure with him anymore, and I see that. So I'm going to come in with my Florges on the expected Ice Beam, which is what shows up. I'm going to defog here because I need to clear these hazards. Otherwise, my Blacephalon's at risk of losing its Sash. I'm going to come in with Indeedee, and then I'm going to try to aggressively call that he's going to switch into Hydreigon. I don't know why he would even switch into Hydreigon. Corviknight's just such a safe switch in to Indeedee because we've already confirmed it's not showing an item, or it's not showing an ability, which tells me it's Mirror Armor. Pressure is announced when the Pokemon enters the field. So I know he's running Mirror Armor, which means not that I have it, but I couldn't click Mystical Fire anyway. And so I'm just in a spot where I'm going to fish for Dazzling Gleam because if I get rid of this Hydreigon, he has virtually no answer for my Blacephalon, with the exception of Rotom Heat, because I can reliably one-hit KO this, one-hit KO the Slowbro. With the terrain up, I can probably one-hit KO Nihilego, and then Flamethrower is going to pretty reliably deal with the Corviknight. So if I can catch the Hydreigon off guard, I'm in a really good spot to sweep this game. He puts rocks back up again. Smart call. I can't really address them. I'm going to switch into Genesect because I know Nihilego doesn't have a good move for it. He uses Grass Knot on the expected Zygarde switch in, which is fine. I'm going to, I believe, U-turn out here. No, Blaze Kick on the expected Corviknight switch in. And then he has Rocky Helmet Rotom because, again, Rotom really addresses whatever Genesect wants to do super well. And I can't pressure the Rotom with that. So he switches out. Smart call. I get in on the expected Toxic because I thought that's what he would try to do. He's going to Volt Switch out, come in with Hydreigon. I'm going to miss my Sleep Powder. Unfortunate, would have helped deal with this Hydreigon a little bit if it wasn't able to exert any pressure. He has U-turn on there for good momentum, so he can keep getting the right pieces onto the field. I'm getting forced to switch around a lot. The Sludge Bomb hits. Very unfortunate that it also poisons. Not that I expected Zygarde to be effective anymore in this game, but it just really tells me Zygarde's dead weight now for this team. Slowbro's going to come in, which I expect, so I got a hard switch out. I believe I'm going to go fish for another Sleep Powder on the expected switch, but I Giga Drain, which is also regrettable. Slowbro wasn't going to stay in 1v1 that. I should have fished for the Predict. Hydreigon comes in, switches out. Sleep Powder is successful on the Nihilego. It's in this time. I try to fish for that Earthquake I was looking for, which I don't get. Very unfortunate. I could not get that because that would have helped deal with the hazards. Hydreigon's going to come in and start Draco Meteoring. I'm going to start fishing for those poisons because, again, if I can get this Hydreigon killed, then I'm in a spot with my Blacephalon to sweep this game. He just doesn't have a lot of answers to Blacephalon if Hydreigon goes down or gets too weak to take an attack. So I'm trying to create that window of opportunity. I'm just not getting it, unfortunately, at the moment. It's forced to switch out. I'm going to start wishing to get my my Florges back and healthy, get the hazards cleared again. And then I'm going to hard switch out on the expected Nihilego Wake Up, which doesn't happen. And then I'm going to be wrong. This was an unnecessarily risky play from him. If I had doubled down on doing Dazzling Gleam, I KO Hydreigon here. The Corviknight is just such a safe switch in, and he can probably already confirm from damage I did to the Nihilego that I'm not Specs. I'm just a Scarf. And so I don't think he should be going into anything else but the Corviknight when the Indeedee hits the field. There's just too much risk with losing this Hydreigon. That would be really bad for his play. But he's going to get it right again. I'm going to go for the Expanding Force. I'm not going to hit it. So Hydreigon's able to sit here and force me out. It's going to U-turn predictively again because I can't do anything about that. So really good momentum for him. I'm going to come back in with the Indeedee, try to create another opportunity for me to click Expanding Force. And now he finally comes in with a Corviknight because he sees that Corviknight just can wall this out, which takes away my ability to be effective with the Indeedee because now I can't get those opportunities to fish for the Hydreigon anymore. I'm going to wish Corviknight's going to come in. I'm going to hard switch to Blacephalon because I know I'll survive one at worst because of Sash, but now I'm able to kind of force that out. Unfortunately, I don't do enough damage to this Hydreigon, so I'm not going to be able to contest that. And more unfortunately, it has Roost, so this Hydreigon's really built to just kind of prevent itself from dying so that Blacephalon doesn't get a window to succeed. I'm going to wish, try to feed some health back to Genesect. He's going to put rocks back up so that he's in a good spot to keep pressuring me. Obviously, Venusaur can't come back in with the rocks or he dies, which is also unfortunate. I'm going to bring Indeedee back in here, and I believe I'm going to try to trick predictively on the Corviknight. No, he comes back in with Hydreigon. I get it wrong again. Really, really unfortunate. I have had multiple opportunities in this game to nearly one-hit KO the Hydreigon. I believe we looked at the calcs afterwards. I don't quite one-hit KO it, but I break it to such a point that I can really easily pick up the kill with Blacephalon later. So I'm just not able to get the opportunity I need on that Hydreigon because I looked at the calcs too for this. At this health range, once I get +1, the Rotom Heat can't handle a Shadow Ball anymore. It gets KO'd at that health range from a Shadow Ball. So all I need to do is break this Hydreigon, and then Blacephalon just wins this game. There's just not much he can do about that. I'm just not getting that opportunity created, which is unfortunate. He's going to U-turn out again, coming with Nihilego, who I can't 1v1 very well. I'm going to sack Venusaur because I need to get a window of opportunity to get back on the field safely. So indeed, he hits the field again. I'm going to predictively trick because I expect Corviknight to come out. Corviknight does show up, which is somewhat helpful for me. I'm going to come in with Genesect on the expectation that Corviknight tries to attack just to kill the Indeedee, which I get that part correct. I'm going to go for a Blaze Kick to try to mostly KO it. I got a +1 boost, but not enough to score that KO, unfortunately. The Corviknight comes in. I'm going to defog here just to try to create a window for the Blacephalon, but things are already falling off the rails for me. I'm not naive to the situation at hand. I simply have not done enough damage to this Hydreigon. It's at full health. It can really easily come in on my Blacephalon, and I just simply can't pressure it. I'm not doing enough damage. This is a lost game. I'm letting the last couple of turns play out, but there is just nothing left to be done. Would have been nice if he would have been kind and sacked his Corviknight, so it wasn't going to be a 6-0. But I'm just not in a position to deal with this Hydreigon, not unless I get crits on special defense drops on the Hydreigon. I'm just not in a position to create anything. So he's playing it really smart, really cautiously, getting the exact situations he needs. So huge kudos to him. He had the right game plan. I unfortunately did not have the right pieces brought to deal with some of these. Like I thought, it is Life Orb, Marshadow, so the exact set I thought might show up did show up. I just wasn't in a position to deal with it. He even flees out predictably, expecting I might be sashed so that he doesn't have to lose them on. And Hydreigon's in a really good spot to do that. Hydreigon U-turns so that it takes down my health by just a couple percent, so that Shadow Sneak reliably one-hit KOs me. All in all, a really well executed plan by Frandy. He had the right pieces. He understood what I was going to try and do in this match. I had several 50-50 opportunities I did not get. Really unfortunate. Those would have really opened up my game. Specifically, if I had gotten any Dazzling Gleams on the Hydreigon would have been out of play. And then my Blacephalon really was in a great position to reverse sweep on that if it had been accomplished. So, an unfortunate start, or an unfortunate loss to get. It's my first of the season. It's the least wanted type of loss, a 6-0 that really hurts my differential. Can be, in fact, impactful for my playoff odds as the season goes along. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. If I end up missing out on differential, this is obviously going to be the game I cite as the reason why. But a really well executed game plan by him, and I think we both share the same records now at 3-1. So I'll be back next week, hoping to rebound after this performance. I play my draft partner, my one that I do my prep work with, Shark Finnegan. So I'm looking forward to that match. It should be a good little showdown for both of us who are looking to get things back on track. So stay tuned for that.